So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. It's education and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
This radio show. We are live here on LifestyleRadio.ca, and we are live at Spreaker Radio. My name is Al Graham, and I am the host of the show. I am joined tonight by my joint host, Kim Cooper. Kim, how are you tonight?
I'm pretty good, Al. Got a little bit of a late start, but we're doing good here in Northern Ontario. How's things down there?
Well, today, to tell you the truth, I was out without power here at my house for 4 hours.
Oh, no.
Yeah. For 4 hours, I had no power. My computer won't start. Yeah.
Oh,
so
no.
now I'm on the plan B. But hey, we're live, and it's running. I got a few scribbled notes down here.
Technology fails us. We always got to have that notebook.
That's right, exactly. It's a good thing the pen didn't run out of ink. So tonight, Kim, you've brought us we've got a guest here who's very vocal, speaks loudly, is a person who speaks up for patients, as well as speaks up for people within the cannabis business community as well.
Yes, that's right. We've got a very vocal guest with us tonight.
That's right. Well, let's find out. Actually, before we find out a little bit of information, let's just do a little bit of news quickly.
Sure.
Okay, and well, there's going to be some talk tonight with our guest about the raids that happened in Toronto last week.
Yeah. That's at the top of everybody's agenda these days.
Yeah, it is. It's there's thousands of patients that now are without access to the medication that is required. I know that they're told, well, you can go to a licensed producer, but a licensed producer wants a whole order that month. Not everybody can do a whole order that month, and there's others timing issues, and obviously not everybody smokes, so they want edibles, and they can't get them from licensed producers.
That's right. There's a lot of issues with licensed producers. I'm not against LPs by any means. They serve a purpose, and they serve a certain sector of the population. But it doesn't encompass the entire cannabis community or the entire medical community by any means.
Exactly. Okay, and we'll talk with our guests about that. And another thing is the LIFT Expo was on the weekend, talking about LBs.
Yes, it was, and I was happy to go to Toronto and attend that with both my Al pals there at the station. That was quite fun.
Yes.
Really enjoyed catching up with everybody. I get down to the city so little these days with being so far away, and the cost of transportation these days is just out of reach for me. As for many, I would think.
From my understanding, for you to drive there is like driving halfway to Florida.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, we took it easy on the way down, and it took us a really long time to get there, but we did a lot of stops. Yeah. But on the way home, when you go direct, it's at least a 7.5 hour trip.
Wow, nice drive. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, as far as your experience at the expo, you were there for 2 days. Saturday, you were involved with the live broadcast.
Yeah, that was a hoot. Loved it. 3 of us were strung together with wires, trying to maneuver that crowd. Got lots of great interviews done. Caught up with lots of people. It was a great time for sure.
Yeah. And how's the recovery afterwards? Those 2 days of heavy walking and talking and.
Yeah, with my back and everything, I'm still not quite up to par yet today. I spent all day yesterday in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. My back was just too far gone. But you're running on adrenaline when you're down there, and you don't feel it until you kind of come down off that high.
That's right, after the adrenaline,
exactly. It just hits you like a ton of bricks.
Well, we've
for sure.
We've had a little bit of rest, but hey, the show's got to go on. So talking about going on, let's bring in our guest today, the man that we talked about, working hard. He's speaking very loudly for patients. He's attending rallies and different events, and I'd like to welcome Michael Thomas to the Pace Radio Show. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am, and thanks for having me on tonight.
Hey, we really appreciate you coming on.
It's always a pleasure.
We really appreciate you coming on to the show and talking to us about probably several things before the time is up. So.
Well, we have much to discuss. I can assure you of that, and you know that some very how do you put this? Some harmful things have happened as of late, and I'm very concerned about a few of these issues.
Yeah. Well, that was one reason why Kim and I, we went and we thought, well, okay, Gus for tonight, for the Tonight Show, we've been seeing what's been happening lately. You've been involved in the news and everything. I even got pictures of you being on CBC. So, you've been very vocal. I thought, hey, there's an opportunity to give Michael a good hour at least to talk about these issues that are going on, like from the raids to the lounges, these Bill 45?
45.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
It's a terrible thing when they take places that are known as safe havens for the medical community away from them. It creates a very significant harm to some of the most ill and dying people of our nation. When you take the social aspect away from those people, these are places where the sick and the ill people are coming to socialize because there is no place where they can go and consume their medicine other than these types of places. Mm-hmm. And this is very significant and a very relevant issue that needs to be addressed properly. The proper legislation needs to be brought forward, and who better to help and assist with that legislation than those that are in the industry and understand it?
Exactly. They're the ones who know what they need. They're the ones that that knows what's going on. They have the experience. It's somebody sitting in an office who's never been to one of these locations, who's never been involved in this. They don't know what's happening. Like when I talked to you at the Global Marijuana March, you mentioned about they're like family, and when they're gone for a few, they seem to go missing. You really get concerned about them and their health.
Well, absolutely. How can you not? You come. These people come in here, and they become part of the community, and you get to know them, and you get to know their life story, and you watch the hockey game with them on a Saturday night, and they become friends. They become family. They become community, and then they're gone, and then their loved one calls you and says, thanks so much. I appreciate the fact that my loved one has a place to go, and then you hear that they're not coming here because they're no longer here.
Yeah,
you see, the community.
That's right.
They think it's all fun and laughter. Well, it's not. That's the part they don't get. They don't get that people are quite often coming into cannabis lounges that suffer from cancer or MS or some other serious debilitating disease, and they want to take away a safe haven. Well, how can you justify that? That should be unconstitutional to do that.
Oh, exactly. I completely agree. It should be. It's a place for patients to go. For example, Kim, you just traveled. You just talked about traveling 11 hours to Toronto.
Yeah, that's right. And with no stops along the way where there's any place safe for patients to go, you're forced over to go on the side of the road at some of these pit stops that they have. Well, now you're medicating out in public, and that's when you get the looks, and you get the police called, and you get pulled over, and all of this kind of stuff. There needs to be more safe places for people like me that travel a long distance. We need to be able to stop and medicate freely. And then I visit places like Toronto, where I'm originally from, but now it's a visit for me. I'm no longer there. Haven't been for quite a number of years. And when I get there, I like to go out and socialize and meet up with people. It's very important for cannabis patients to have a place to go, to meet up with their friends, do their social activities, and have a safe environment to medicate in without harassments from the outside people.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, basically, Kim, I'm sure you got some more questions for Michael. I'm gonna let you get going.
I sure do.
Let you get going on the questions, and then I will jump in along the way. All right?
Sounds great. Thanks very much, Al, for that. It's great to have you here with us tonight, Michael. Thank you so much again for joining us. I wasn't able to make it out to your lounge out in St. Kitts this trip, but I am planning another trip out there, and at the end of August, and I plan on hitting all the outskirts of town as well. Hope to come and visit your lounge when I get there.
Well, we'd be happy to have you here, and we're fighting to keep this establishment open. We just had a very terrible letter there that the local region here, the Niagara region, wants to have very strict and severe regulations on cannabis in the Niagara region. And I think that they're going to go along with the Premier's bill on the notes that includes the cannabis in with the Tobacco Act. And I don't understand how two plants that are nothing similar are suddenly the same. And that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, not at all. I mean, as you said, many cannabis consumers and medical patients are using this medicine to treat cancer and other such illnesses. To be forced to be exposed to the carcinogens of cigarette smoke in order to vaporize or medicate with cannabis at the same time, it's outrageous to me that you would put somebody possibly suffering from lung cancer lumped in with tobacco smokers in order for that person to medicate. It's unjust. Well,
and what about the social end of it, the therapeutic value of being with other ill people that, are in a stigma-free environment? We see patients, come in here and they want to play cards or they just want to relax. I mean, these things are significant, of a significant value to society, as a whole.
Absolutely.
When we think about this being a holistic medicine, you need to include everything, all aspects of it.
Yeah, and as we well know, when you're going through any kind of traumatic illness in your life, whether it be cancer or anything else, your social life suffers immensely. And anything that opens up the avenues for patients to still experience a social life and, converge on to one place with other people and still maintain some sort of resemblance of a lifestyle is extremely important in the therapeutic values to their overall health as well.
Yeah, the social stimulation is of significant value. And, we have live comedy in here, and of course we know that laughter and cannabis are both good medicines, and they go hand in hand. And, when I see somebody with MS sitting here laughing so hard that he can't even hardly sit in his chair, it's a beautiful thing, because just for that split moment, that pain, that suffering is gone. That's an incredible thing. So, that's why we need these places.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, the people, I guess you're governed by the Niagara region, and they're going along with the Premier Kathleen Wynne's idea at the moment. Have they indicated that they're going to be coming down on vapor lounges in your area?
Well, I think this is the first step. I mean, we saw a huge write-up in the Hamilton Spectator about any type of dispensary business here in Niagara via the Niagara Regional Police. And when I've contacted the mayor's office, it was like I got to run around there. So, I don't think these people really want to have to talk to me again. And I find that a shame, because when we opened this business, they didn't even know how it worked. We had to guide them through it. They were in here several times. We worked with the city. We were very professional in what we did. And all of a sudden now the health board is shooting us down, saying that it's, a public safety or harm concern.
What?
I'm here to tell you that there's no safety or harm issues here.
Yeah. Have you received a notice then from them saying that it's a harm concern for your establishment?
No, they haven't gotten to that extent. I believe that this paper that they're going to submit is coming out on the 9th of June, which coincides with the Premier's plans.
Right.
Pardon me.
Right. I know in Toronto area they've got the Cannabis Friendly Business Association going on to try and fight this and lobby Queen's Park. Are businesses in your area involved in this as well, or do you have your own, or what's going on with that aspect?
Yes, as far as I know, there are ourselves and I believe the Vapor Trail are backing the Cannabis Friendly Business Association. I know we are for sure, and I've seen members from the Vapor Trail at the Cannabis Business Association meetings at the Hot Box in Toronto. So I know that they're on page with us, and I was actually talking with the owner of the Vapor Trail very recently, and we have to sit down and we have to attack this on our local level as well.
Yeah, for sure. Every individual community has to get involved, not just major cities.
And they haven't asked for any input whatsoever from you, other than when you originally got started.
That was it. The Board of Health never came and saw me, and they never came and talked to members of the medical community that I'm aware of. I mean, I would think that I would be notified if there was some contact here in Niagara with the Board of Health. So I don't think they've consulted any medical patients at all. I don't think that they've consulted the medical cannabis community at all. And I think they're just trying to go ahead and push this through.
Yet again, sort of like when marijuana or cannabis became legal, based on no science, no evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
No proof. Like it's what are they going to do? You want to force us to go out and medicate on the sidewalk?
Well, that's what they expect, and.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if it's a cold, blundering winter day, that's just too bad. You're going to have to go out there in that wheelchair and use your medicine out there in the storm.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing. So they're pretty much pushing us outside onto the streets and into parks and into areas that cause harm and not be accepted and so forth. By doing all of this, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's like creating another type of restriction to access.
Correct.
If you think about it. How's somebody with MS going to go outside, when it's minus 23 degrees and use his medicine out in the parking lot sitting between two parked cars in a wheelchair?
Yeah. Well, I can attest to that. I can attest to that for myself, being with my COPD. I go outside, the cold air freezes my lungs instantly. I can't breathe. So there is no smoking or vaporizing outside for me in the winter at all.
No. So that's a restriction on your access.
Yeah, and basically forcing patients to be only medicating within their house or within their residence. And, what medication is restricted to, by law, to force a patient to consume the medicine within their home.
And even that has become problematic for those that live in residences, apartment buildings, communal living, that kind of thing. They're not permitted to do so. Some buildings are saying, we smell marijuana, that's not allowed, or you're going to be kicked out. I mean, people are having a horrendous time even in their own homes.
Yeah, maybe even public housing. Public housing have no smoking regulations?
Yep, that's correct. That's correct.
Well, that would never work for me.
No.
You know, I mean, it's just that simple. When I've moved into different buildings, I've always produced my license and said, this is how it is, and here's the injunction if you want to look at that. You know, I always have copies of legal paperwork that I can provide them with, and they kind of just look at you and say, well, okay, we'll let you move in here. So, you know, I mean, that's how it is, right? I'm so far out of the closet, you couldn't find a 10-car garage to put me back in.
or an airplane hangar.
Yeah. There's just, yeah. Maybe the Sky Dome. Maybe there I could hide, but, you know, anywhere else, no.
Well, we're happy about that, Michael, and we wish more people would be as proactive as you are and as vocal as you are. And I've always said, if everybody that is in the cannabis closet did finally stand up one day, there'd be nobody left sitting down.
No, exactly. I can tell you, I know probably about 1,000 people that would never stand up and say, hey, you know what, I smoke pot. Really, seriously. And this is the shame of it all.
It is a shame.
If those 1,000 came and stood beside me and went to these global marijuana marches, all these people I've known over the years that hide in the closet, you know, if those people all just came out and showed up at the Global Marijuana March, it would be 4 lanes wide and it would be 2 miles long of humanity, and they would see us and hear us coming, and they would be afraid, you know, and that's the difference. They're not afraid. We need to make them afraid, like people that, you know, these college kids, 20, 25 years old, and they get busted on a Friday night smoking a joint in a back alley. They shouldn't have to go in a back alley to smoke a joint and hide and then run the risk of losing a lifetime career that they've studied hard for.
Exactly.
That's right. Because it's ridiculous. It's a plant. You know, it's not doing any harm to, you know, we've got much more dangerous things in grocery stores, from barbecue starter fluid to even aerosol sprays. You know.
Yep. Look at just some of the household cleaners we use. I mean,
correct.
It's just crazy.
Warning labels: corrosive. Oh, but it's okay. You can put it in you can put it underneath your kitchen sink. It's corrosive.
And you're worried about a child, and they say, oh, you know, public safety and the well-being of the child, you know, we got to make it so strict. Well, and you put that stuff under the counter, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, we got to go take a break, pay some bills here. And as we go into the break, we're going to hear some music by Les Mosquitoes and their song called Justice. And then after that is all over and done with the commercial. Kim and I will continue this conversation with Michael Thomas of Puffdogs Vapor Lounge. And we'll see you shortly. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show here on LifestyleRadio.ca.
Listening to Lifestyle Radio.
And the rise above the evil. The poor keep getting stronger, and the rich can't feed them.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process, and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet. www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
This is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on LifestyleRadio.ca.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
Hello and welcome back to the Pace Radio Show here on LifestyleRadio.ca. And don't forget, we are live. And we're also live on Spreaker Radio as well. So we are here with Kim Cooper, joint host, and we have our guest, Michael Thomas of the Puffdogs Vapor Lounge in St. Catharines. Michael, Kim, before the break, we're talking about Bill 45 and the effects that it will have on patients in the vapor lounges and stuff. But what I'm wondering, Michael, is if you could talk a little bit about some of the activities that go on there as far as what is available for, people think, okay, you're going to go in there and we're talking about medicating and vaporizing and stuff like that. But, what all happens in there when it comes to the entertainment and so on and so forth?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Puffdogs.
Well, we have a comedy show in here once a month, and we have Hetty Glass in here once a month as well, which is a group of high-end glass collectors that travel from across the province and come in here one night of the month and show off all their functional artwork. So that's always a good time here. We have open mic, and we have our regulars that just come in and hook into the Wi-Fi, and we've had university students come in as well and use the Wi-Fi in the evenings when they're around. So, we have a little bit of something for everyone.
Do you host events for fundraisers within the cannabis community?
Yes, actually, we have one coming up this weekend.
There you go.
We've done fundraisers for autism and local women's shelter here, and both of those events were successful. So, and we're trying to assist in raising a few dollars for the Cannabis Friendly Business Association as well, So, working
awesome.
with the community, my aspect or my thought on this was, if we work with the community, at some point they've just got to accept us, because they're going to see that we're doing good things in the community, not just in the cannabis community, but in the everyday walk of life community, right? Yeah. So we've tried to bridge the gap that way, and I've seen some very positive reviews on the things we've done, and that's important, right?
Yeah, for sure.
These could be things that you could bring forward to if you get into this meeting on June the 9th. that you could bring forward if there's been anything that's been published, anything that's been sent to you. I don't know whether you're involved in the BIA or your Chamber of Commerce or anything along that line.
Well, we've extended the olive branch to the city. Unfortunately, they've not taken it. I'm not talking about the residents of the city by any means. I mean, we've had a decent supporting here in this size of a community. It's just the city themselves haven't, we gave them an open door policy. We don't lock our door here or anything, right? They could walk in off the street if they so chose. We've had other issues here where there were problems outside in the parking lot that did not stem from our establishment, yet we opened the door to local law enforcement to use a portion of our lounge to do their investigation. So I mean, we've really welcomed the community in and the city and law enforcement, but they haven't invited us to be a part of their club, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm glad to see that you're doing that, as I've seen other vapor lounges do as well, with getting involved with the regular community and trying to get involved with your local BIA, and if not to that extent, then at least to reach out to other businesses and so forth, and as you say, open the door to law enforcement when needed and so forth. It's good to see that happening with more lounges instead of being so secretive and secluded sort of thing like they used to be in days gone by.
Well, we have to break the stigma, right? We have to approach it in a responsible fashion. We have to let them know that we know how the business works and guide them through it if that's what it takes, And we've done all those things, When the police were done, they shook my hand and said, "Thank you. You run a very well looked after establishment.
Awesome.
It's much different than we had ever imagined it would be."
So at least you may be opening some individual eyes along the way for those officers that did, use your facility and say that. And word of mouth goes a long way as well. So, making those ties in the community is very important for the community as a whole, I think.
Well, we have to gain their trust. We have to gain their respect. The fire marshal, when he came back, he was here, I believe, 4 or 5 times. And then at the end of it, he said, "Well, I don't think you need all these fire extinguishers. He said, like a third of what you've got on the walls would have been sufficient, but thanks for caring and doing the job thoroughly."
Great. Awesome. Well, that's great to see. Your lounge offers a lot of things, a lot of entertainment, and people just come and get together, and you also have breakout euchre tournaments, and do you have stuff like that planned as well, stuff like card night?
No, we actually have a university group. I believe it's called Geek Night or something like that, and they come in and do their video gaming and all the rest of it. So, when people play cards, I mean, it's just people play cards, right? That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Love getting together for cards. I'm a little card person myself. Yeah, it's a great setup that you've got here. I can't wait to come out and visit it in person. I've seen many of the pictures, and all of the posts I've heard and seen have been very favorable, and that you run a great show there.
And having those universities, I think you said university students, that come in and do their games thing, that's something that gets them away from their regular study classes, brain cramming, all that, and it allows them to, relax, be stress relievers, and relieving stress is good for your health.
Well, absolutely, and let's be honest. They come here seeking a safe refuge, right? They don't want to be at the dorm, where they run the risk of being, removed from the property or have to move someplace else. Why not just come to a place that's friendly, it's inviting, it's comfortable. You want to watch the sports on TV, you can do that. You guys want to play your video games, we've got it all here. So that's important.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Safe place is always awesome. And those that are in schools and studying and that, they run the risk of losing scholarships and everything else. So these safe places are definitely needed in our communities. No question about it. Well, moving along a little bit. Next thing I wanted to bring up with you was, I know an issue that's near and dear to your heart as well, and that you are very adamant about, and that's the recent raids that went on in Toronto. That was quite the crackdown that we saw on Thursday.
Well, this is very heavy for me. Okay, I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with my little girl's story.
Yes, absolutely.
The people that the City of Toronto and the Toronto Police Services, many of those people were people that helped me as a parent that had to break the law. And there is no justice in what the Toronto Police Services did, and the City of Toronto, Mayor John Tory, and anybody else that was in on this. Because those are the people that helped before there was ever anybody else that would come to the rescue and help. Okay? And now you turn around and treat them like they're dirt. That is disingenuous and callous at best. And I will be at Old City Hall on June 20th. And we need answers. We need real answers to real tough questions.
Yeah.
Those people that you busted are some of the best people in this country. Because they care. They still have compassion for their fellow human being. And if that makes them criminals, then I'm willing to be one of them, and I'm a criminal too. Because we care about each other.
Yeah, it was a horrific event for sure that preceded the LIFT conference. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of rumor about who exactly pushed for this, which organization pushed for it, who was involved. Some people have come out and denied, others have stayed quiet. We may never know in the end who or why. But do you personally believe this was evolved around preceding the LIFT conference, or do you think that was a coincidence?
We know Mr. Blair came to town. We know that a meeting was scheduled at City Hall that was deferred. After the meeting was deferred, we know the raid went down. The meeting was to sit down and talk about regulation.
Yeah.
We were willing to come to the table with a very professional set of rules and regulations, and they deferred it so they could bust us all.
Yeah.
If you don't think I'm taking this hard to heart, Mr. Trudeau, I am taking it hard to heart. Because the bottom line is everybody's passing the buck. Now they're all saying it's Trudeau that's created the confusion. Now, somebody put the bug in the Toronto Police Department Services ear to go do this. I'm quite sure.
Yeah, you and many others have the same feeling. Puffdog, you're not alone in that stand at all. That's for sure. But we may never know. As I said, we may never.
The chief of police 2 weeks earlier had said that they weren't even a priority. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, is 50 complaints? Is that enough to do this damage that they've done?
Well, what's the population, and then do the math. You went out and busted 43 places and arrested over, close to 100, and that's 0.0000000.1% of the population, and you spent all that money on 0.0000001% of the population. Come on.
Yeah, the math doesn't add up, that's for sure, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. The cost of this, which is being put on the taxpayers' backs, of course, outrageous, and the force involved from the videos that I've seen, not impressed at all. My understanding is that people were used from the homicide task force, as well as others, to initiate these raids. When I was in Toronto for the LIFT conference, I watched the news, Toronto news, every night while I was there before I went to bed. And every night while I was there, there was at least one murder. Why were homicide officers raiding pot shops when there's a minimum of one murder per day in Toronto?
Yeah, taking medicine away from patients.
Yeah, that's a priority. Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Well, I do understand why. Because cannabis consumers are basically very friendly and easygoing people. I can tell you through my own experience, I had an officer that charged me many years ago say to me, "You're the easiest guy I ever arrested. You got in the car on your own." And I said, "Well, I'm going to get my day in front of the judge, aren't I?" Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I know after speaking to a lot of patients that were registered at some of the dispensaries that were raided, there's a large community of patients that are very concerned about the fact that in this raid records were taken. And now it's unclear what happens to that information for patients. And that caused a lot of stress for a large quantity of patients in the community. And that's added stress onto these patients that they just don't need while they're battling these illnesses. Has anybody, I'm just putting this out there for both of you, actually, if anybody has heard anything about what the police are planning on doing with the information that was confiscated?
I haven't heard anything, but I know they took it all.
Well, my theory on this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've had to deal with insurance companies and many other issues where my health records were requested. There were certain legal avenues that had to be processed in order for others to obtain my medical records. You can't just take someone's medical records. I mean, that's theft of a confidential document.
Well, that's what I would have assumed, but it seems that they did take any documents that were in all of these dispensaries, computerized and hard copies.
Well, see, is that even legal? That's what we need. I mean, I'm sure that there are lawyers involved in all of this by this point. I'm not familiar with the legal technicalities, but because it's a health record, I believe that's between the patient and their doctor. And if they choose to allow someone else to have access to that, that's of their choosing. For someone to steal that, I don't think that's legal.
Yeah, and it seems that's what our local police in Toronto have just done, and that's put a lot of patients on edge.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to find out if how these charges and everything go along. Once they start appearing, whether they start getting tossed, if they're tossed beforehand, or if they're successful. You guys, just to let you know, it's break time again.
Oh, gotta pay some bills.
Yes, that's right. We're back to listening to some more music by Les Mosquitoes and their song "Justice." And then when we return from the break, we'll continue this conversation with Kim and Michael and myself. And you're listening to the Pace Radio Show here on LifestyleRadio.ca.
So what are you doing? Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
We system and the rise above the evil. The poor keep getting stronger and the rich can't feed their hunger.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
BMA offers cannabinoid testing, so if you want to prove you've got good medicine, head to BMA Hydroponics and prove it.
The National Task Force on Medicinal Cannabis is a group of not-for-profit organizations dedicated to influencing government policy with factual evidence. Our mission is to ensure that a constitutional medical program is developed that will address the concerns of all Canadians that require therapeutic cannabis. The task force is looking for dedicated people who are willing to contribute to our cause. We have formed this task force to foster a unified approach and focus on lobbying the federal government and Health Canada. We represent the combined expertise of thousands of patients with more than a decade of experience. As a task force participant, you, your business, or your group will have an opportunity to show that you care and offer your unique skills to promote the cause. If you would like to get involved, go to medcanataskforce.org. That's medcanataskforce.org and use the Contact Us link to get started. Help us help you.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffen, or Alison Merlin, along with myself, Al Graham, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at LifestyleRadio.ca.
Hello and welcome back to the Pace Radio Show. I'm your host, Al Graham. The music you've been hearing between the breaks is by Les Mosquitoes. They're a Quebec-based band. And if you enjoyed the music, you can hear some of their other stuff as well as their cannabis tunes at lesmosquito.com. And I also want to let you know that tune in this Friday night for the 420 radio show. It goes live at 7 p.m. 2 hours long. It's Al Rapp and his 420 crew. People such as Marcel Gagnac, Laurie McEachran, Ross Middleton, and Chris Backer. They're all part of that crew there. They'll be live Friday, and I can just imagine what they're going to be talking about. I talked to Al earlier, and it sounds like something that's very interesting being with these raids and all that. And they got some guests lined up, so tune in for that Friday night at 7 o'clock. All right, we're getting into our last segment here. We've got we've touched with Michael there with about let's see, we talked about the Bill 45. We've talked about the vapor lounges. We've talked about the raids, and I'm sure we can talk more about raids too and all this stuff. But Kim, I'm sure you got more to talk to Michael about.
I sure do. Just back from enjoying my nice little break off. Enjoying my break off from medicine. Thank you from Hotbox. Wow.
Nice.
Very good. Thank you. We're back with Michael. We're back, I'd like to change gears here a little bit and talk about the movement as a whole and the different avenues that should be available in most people's opinions for the cannabis community. Access for namely, and the LP situation and growers and dispensaries and all of it together. What do you see in the future for this, Michael? Do you see growers supplying dispensaries alongside with LPs in our future at all?
My most humble opinion on this is that everyone should have the right to grow their own, of course, for the therapeutic value of gardening. Secondly, I believe that there is room for dispensaries. Ultimately, I understand the LPs are looking into big money, and I get that. But at the same point, there's still room for mom and pop shops, as there is with craft beer, and we have, places where you can go and brew your own wine and all of these things. But, first and foremost, it has to be access. Access is the greatest hurdle. When there's limited access, or only one avenue to travel down, it creates problems for many reasons. What if I'm out now and I have to wait for an LP till next week, or the post, Canada Postal Service, or I need my medicine today. If I got my prescription today, I need my medicine today. My doctor certainly never signed a prescription for anything else where I couldn't just walk into a place and get it.
Yeah.
Hello? I mean, we have a wide array of pharmaceutical outlets. We have a wide array of bars and other establishments. We have a wide array of convenience stores. In a free and fair market, and where you create a level playing field for all parties, then everybody's happy. And I don't understand, when we know, there's probably a half of a million cannabis consumers in the city of Toronto alone, let alone the rest of the province, let alone the nation. I mean, this is a huge thing coming to plate.
I like personally to equate it to grocery stores. And I've said this in the past many times. When we go and buy our produce, we have our options of going to a Costco or a Walmart, or we can go to the mom and pop shop on the corner, or we can go to the grower at a farmer's market. We should have the same choice when it comes to cannabis.
Absolutely. And I want to touch base here on the Global March. What I saw there was a level playing field at Queen's Park. It was almost like having a farmer's market, and it was a wonderful day. It was a celebration. And now they've turned around and raided everybody that was involved in the celebration. I don't understand how that works. You can't celebrate 1 week and 2 weeks later you kick everybody's door in.
And all the while offering a vapor lounge and a Cannabis Expo in a federally owned building.
Yeah. Why didn't you bust all of those people? I mean...
we would have been easy pickings. They had us out front, and the security kept moving us over so that we... basically, I know I was told 3 times to go stand on the road.
Yeah, we were kind of all huddled over, and by day 2, Al, on Sunday, they had us in one area. Everybody that was consuming cannabis was kind of between these 2 construction pillars, and that was where everybody was.
Is that where the people smoking cigarettes were too?
No, they were all along the edge of the sidewalk. They were everywhere. And
they were people walking back and forth with cigarettes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's what Premier wants. She wants you to walk by all those kids at the ballpark smoking your joints. That's what Premier wants. The Premier Win wants. Does this woman understand what she's just released on society here? What I'm going to go to the farmer's market downtown here, and if you think I'm not going to medicate, I got another thing coming for the Premier. I'm going to medicate as I need to medicate.
If you're going to take away safe havens to do it, then if I'm at the farmer's market downtown, at the town square, or at your city hall, or at your courthouse, or at your police station, then that's where I'm going to use my medicine.
That kind of brings me to my next question there. And do you think that with all of this that Kathleen is bringing down with Bill 45 and all of that, do you think that this is going to lead to another constitutional challenge in the courts brought forth by patients?
Oh, absolutely it will, because it's just another restriction on access. The government was told, end the restriction on access, and the Premier is going to restrict it.
Yeah. And, she even commented back in November. It wasn't her, but the health person who made the announcement about it all back then. They've said then that they had to allow public consumption because they're going to get their asses in court. And so they knew back in November, and that was the advice that they had got from council. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's sad that all of this keeps coming down to court challenges, and we have to wind up in the Supreme Court of Canada for the government to get the hint that they're doing this incorrectly.
Well, I don't think the government's going to get the hint. Listen, we've quashed their laws 11 times, correct, already?
So far.
That workable program that they were supposed to institute in 2001 that is still not workable, which was only supposed to happen for 12 months, which has now been close to 200.
Yeah.
And we still don't have a workable program that's been found unconstitutional after all these years.
Yeah.
How much time do they get?
Well, you try being 200 months late on coming to your terms from a court decision and see what that gets you. You go to jail if that happens.
That's a very valid point, isn't it? And, maybe, given the fact that the federal government has gotten it wrong all these times, one would think if they lose it this time, that maybe the courts should just turn it over to the people. Because the people in this industry know how it works.
Yeah, well, we've been doing it for, forever. Legally with businesses operating in this country for 25 years now. We know what we're doing.
Well, I've been growing clean, safe, natural, organic cannabis since 1974. I don't think I have any problem that way. And if I can grow my own tomatoes safely, I should be able to grow my own cannabis safely and consume it safely. So I don't understand what the big deal is. Quite seriously, it's just unjust laws and policies, and when they're told to fix it, they just come out with another system that's completely flawed and restrictive and doesn't provide any kind of dignified access to patients. If you can't figure it out by now, get out of the business.
Yeah, and really that's the bottom line, is dignified access for patients. And that's what it's all about. That's what the fight's been about from the beginning, is access. At the core of cannabis activism, it has been about access, and it has to continue to do that. And if we all came together as one, we would be an unstoppable force. I mean, really, if the power struggles would stop within the community, is my opinion, then we would be a lot better off. If we could get dispensaries, LPs, lounge owners, all of us together, the government would not be able to say no.
You have an overwhelming amount of the population.
Well, that's just it. If everybody stands up, there's no one left sitting.
Everybody stood up and voted for Mr. Trudeau, correct?
For legalization. That's right.
To honor his statement that he was going to legalize, and it's not going to be that strict because we know it's of no harm to society. It would be different if we were trying to legalize something that was deadly toxic to society, but we're not.
Oh, that's already legal.
You're absolutely right, Kim, because, you can actually Google the top 10 deadliest vegetables, and there's like tomatoes and potatoes and things like that. There's parts of them or certain times where you can consume them, and they can be very dangerous to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we don't regulate them.
Everywhere.
Yeah, and we don't regulate them.
Nope, you don't. And that isn't even counting the pesticides and the GMOs and then you get into the hormones and all of this kind of stuff with meats and antibiotics and oh my God, the list goes on and on and on. And that's all, mostly toxic for us, definitely not good for us anymore. All perfectly legal.
Yeah, a little bit off topic, did you see on recently about they're going to gamma ray meat?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other show. Well.
You're right, absolutely right.
Well, as long as they don't start doing that to the cannabis, I guess we're safe.
Well, as you know, some of the licensed producers do that. They do gamma ray the cannabis.
Well, I'll just stick to my organic grown cannabis, and I'm happy, and it works for me, and that's what matters as a patient.
Now, at the expo, I was talking to some of the people during some of the interviews, and there seemed to be some, like, as far as these compassion centers and supplying them, because I guess the LPs would be arguing that it's an illegal market versus a legal market. And so there was a question about, would the LPs get to a point where they would supply the dispensaries? And there seemed to be some support for that. But there was also, one person who was very right and said, well, if they're going to do that, then they should allow everybody an opportunity to be a licensed producer. So, people who maybe that they've been dealing with for 10 years, who have never had any issue with, no problems with, could still, get their product from them.
Yeah, there was a few that were agreeable, but on the majority whole, it seemed that they were a bit edgy about the
Well, I'm sure there would be.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's room for everybody. Nobody ever got sick off of anything I've produced. I would know after producing it for 40 years, I should be dead by now if it was harmful. So.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Everybody should have maintained. I mean, the right to grow is overall paramount, in my opinion. But there's many out there that aren't inclined to do so for one reason or another, and they have to have a place to go. Some people like to look, feel, and touch their medicine before they purchase it, and others need it on the spot because of medical issues, and others are good with the mail order system and the LPs. There is definitely room for all in this market. It is just so vast.
Well, we know that like I said before, there's 500,000 people in the city of Toronto that consume cannabis. So I mean, how many are there across Canada? The market is huge. It's going to be a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and I think that, like you were saying, Kim, there needs to be like farmers market where you can go and or a festival or picnics in the park. I mean, I remember going up to Kitchener to Kitchener Cannabis Club had a potluck picnic. And it was a beautiful thing. I mean, the community was wonderful. And that's important. That's relevant because that's how we break down the barriers. That's how we end the stigma. Bring your grandma. Bring your grandparents to a picnic.
Talking about markets, because of the raids on Thursday, I and several others, I'm sure there was many of us, lost out on an opportunity to attend the green market that was planned to be held on Friday night, and was canceled.
Yeah, I got into town on Friday night, and I got there, and everything was canceled. All the dispensaries were closed, and I came empty-handed, looking forward to trying out some new products that were available in Toronto that aren't available in Northern Ontario. And when I got here, I was sadly disappointed Friday night. Yeah, it wasn't a good situation at all when I arrived.
Yeah, but just you're talking about a market and stuff, and this was going to be their second time that they had done it.
Yeah, and I was so looking forward to being there and checking out all the products. I think Lisa Campbell hosts that, and looked like to be a fabulous one the first time around. I was so looking forward to this one.
Exactly. So is this all, Michael, you be in the same boat, trying, the Harper days, they used to be concerned about the normalization of cannabis, markets, expos, lounges, so on and so forth.
I've been at this game a long time, and I've seen a lot of very positive things along the way. Have we made progress? Absolutely. Have we seen times where things seem to be going backwards? Well, yes, absolutely. But where we're at now, we're at a very special time in Canadian history. And we have to let the politicians know that the people matter, and that all those people that went to jail, over this plant. Well, you got to come out and you got to tell the general public, that it was, all based on lies and untruths and racism and other issues that were ruled over with a very iron fist, and that were taken out of their proper context and demonized, and the governments need to come out and tell this stuff to the general public, so that the general public isn't all worried about this devil's weed anymore. I mean, I've seen and heard it all in my years dealing with cannabis, and it's really past due. It's past due. Growing up in Vancouver as a young person and seeing the hippie movement in Vancouver, and my dad elbowing me in the car and saying, "Hey, pay attention to these people. They're going to change the world." The community, the cannabis community has been here as long as mankind has walked upright. I mean, somewhere along the way, somebody said, "Hey, this works," and they threw it on the fire at night. So we know that this plant's been with us all this time. Why did we demonize it? What was the purpose of the demonization of the plant? And the government needs to come forward and tell people the truth about it.
Well, it was the almighty dollar, as always, right?
Well, yeah. Talking about longevity and how long they've been doing it for medication purposes, they find it in the tombs, Gobi Desert, 2,700-year-old finds. People don't take things to the tombs that they don't want to use in their afterlife. Right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Absolutely.
It's been with us since the beginning of our recorded history, so we know that to be true.
It's only been labeled nasty for the last 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was due to money and racism, and we know that at its heart now. And a lot of people are saying that the expose, so to speak, and the press conference that was held after the raids were 2016's reefer madness in comparison, due to the way they tried to display edibles and try and state facts like, they were out there displaying candy and so forth, which was all basically bunk because none of the edibles were on display that they confiscated.
Well, this is just absolutely absurd. This is just promoting reefer madness to the next level. We're talking about legalizing cannabis in Canada, and you're demonizing cannabis in Canada. Well, what is the gig? Who triggered this? That's the person that we need to find out. Who did this? And no more passing the buck. Come out and say
I sat there in front of the computer watching the live stream of the news conference from the raids on Friday, and I just couldn't believe that they were saying that they were doing this for public safety reasons because the product wasn't labeled. But yet in the video footage or the pictures that they show, they would show, like, for example, Mary's Java, or there was like some pancake mix, and I know the pancake mix it come with 12 grams of cannabis in it, so there's a label there.
Yeah, there was labels on everything.
There's milligrams on some of the products when it comes to suckers and stuff like that. Sure, it's not store to store, but as they were saying through the news conference, where's the victims?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: they're saying that it wasn't labeled, right? Well,
yeah. So let's spend millions of dollars on taking down places because they haven't got a label.
Yeah. So we have labels on products that clearly indicate that it will kill you, but we still sell those products.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's right on the label. It says it will kill you, but it's still legal.
I know.
Yeah, and sell that in a public setting. Well, really, what I use quite often, for an example, is gasoline.
Yeah.
Look what you can do with gasoline.
Yeah, freely sold everywhere.
Freely sold everywhere, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand their theory behind this. I just see it as a pass-the-buck, Band-Aid type answer. For questions, the tough questions that they don't want to answer, they give you a Band-Aid answer. And we all know this to be true. Do I believe that in this industry we need proper packaging? Absolutely, 100%. Okay? When I've made banana bread and gave it to cancer patients, I said, eat one slice only. You're not going to eat 2 slices of my banana bread, because that's real banana bread. Like I said, I think that the government should have sat down with the real professionals in the industry, and talked with the MMAR people, but they didn't, of course, because the MMAR people struck down their MMPR. And I think that they've got something out for us almost. I think they've got like almost this. It's not a vendetta, but they're certainly not wanting to do business with us after what they've just pulled. That's a very clear sign that they do not want the old school people, such as myself, involved in their industry. I think maybe they're afraid that we know too much sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think to them it's almost an admission of guilt, perhaps, on their part, should come to you for advice or help for the industry now, and perhaps a bit of egg on their face that they're not willing to face up to.
Well, you got to think the MMPR, the way it's formed, right from the beginning. What did they do? They went to the compassion centers and asked the government. The government went to the compassion centers and asked them, "How do you operate?"
Yeah.
There was other things that they had to ask about in order to do something, and out of those answers, they formed the MMPR. So if it wasn't for the dispensaries and the cannabis community, there wouldn't have been that experience in order for them to set up their program.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And now they're turning around
I'm glad
and trying
that
to
we
shut
have this understanding. You get it. I get it. Many get it. It's as I said, I've been growing cannabis since 1974, and nobody's ever got sick off my cannabis. Nobody. Yeah,
and nobody ever will off of anyone's cannabis unless it's grown properly, at least, without chemicals. We've talked about a lot tonight. There's one thing I wanted to get in real quick before we end off the show, and that is your involvement with Dads for Marijuana.
Well, it's a global family, a global community. We have people working diligently, sharing information as far away as Malaysia. I'm very, very humbled to have such dedicated people, sharing information, that very, very important to other people around the world. I'm very fortunate to have Michael DeSalt Jansen and Alan Gammon, and the list of administration on Dads is endless. And, it's been a real blessing. It's given me a worldwide platform to share knowledge with, and I think that's very important. The more people know, the more people know.
That's how they learn. For sure.
For sure,
That's right.
for sure. Absolutely.
Education. Knowledge.
Yeah. And Dads for Marijuana is an excellent group. I do follow them quite a bit, and I post for them quite a bit as well. Awesome group. I've sent many people their way. They help many, as most of the organizations you're involved with do, Puffdog.
Yeah, well, when I see posting, in Brazil or I see something that's done in New Zealand or something in Australia, some of the language I don't even understand, but it's all relative because we're all speaking the same language worldwide. It's the cannabis language. We're a huge community, and it's important that we share information from other countries. Because maybe some research has been done, maybe in Ireland, or something was done in Holland or anywhere. It's always nice to see other information come from around the world.
Absolutely. We are a global community.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, Michael. Getting time to do the wrap up here. And usually we like to allow our guests to do a shout out, to highlight, promote, whatever, a person, place, a thing, a website, anything along that line that you'd like to promote?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to promote at this point in time that everyone come out and show support at the High Court of Ontario at the Old City Hall on June 20th. We've got to rally the troops. They've got to hear us. They've got to see us. It's important what John Tory and the City of Toronto and Toronto Police Services and whoever else was involved in these raids in downtown Toronto have got to be held accountable. We cannot let this go. It's time to rally once more. Thanks very much for having me on the show tonight.
Hey, we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us and talking about all these different subjects. We covered a bunch of different stuff, and we could go on for quite some time on different things. But
I have a whole ton of questions that I didn't even get to, but that'll be for another time. We'll absolutely have to have you back on, Michael.
There you go. Exactly.
It's been a very good pleasure. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, Kim, have you got a shout out?
Yeah, I'm gonna give my shout out this time around to mjcreams.ca. Great, fabulous cream, wonderful supporter to noser.ca and my movement here in Northern Ontario. I can give you a full testament to their cream and their value. Used it on my son's scarred up arm recently, and it is healed completely, and the scars are disappearing. Fabulous product. Check them out today.
Nice. It's always good to be able to find some cannabis cream. All right. I'd just like to let everybody know that I will be back next week with my joint host, Allison Murden, and her guest, as well as let you know that you can find the Pace Radio Show on Facebook, so you can go there and like us. You can find us on Twitter at Pace Radio, and you can find us online at pace-online.ca. Big thank you tonight, as always, BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Al Rapp at Lifestyle Radio with him. We need somebody to produce this so we can get our voices heard, so we always appreciate the work he does. To our guest, Michael Puffdog Thomas, the owner of the Puffdog Vapor Lounge, and he's involved heavily with marijuana for Dads for Marijuana, so make sure you check them out. And thank you to my joint host, Kim Cooper, and to you. All of you guys, the listeners, everybody's listening to the program, and those who share our posts on Facebook, we really appreciate that, and please keep it up. So until next week, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, and good night.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations.